Hello guys and welcome to the Russian Football News Predictions League Week 4, already into Week 4. And things are absolutely flying. First off, I want to thank everybody for joining in and for staying. I know that sounds odd after only 3 weeks, but usually Week 3 is when we start to see a bit of a drop-off in numbers after the initial interest of the first week or two. We had a record number, 51 players in Week 2, highest we've ever had in 1 week. We still had 45 players this week, and at least 2 of them were just purely from forgetting. And admittedly, I only gave you 2 days warning. But guys, just as a reminder, I will keep saying this, always assume that the deadline is Friday lunchtime. In other words, plan in your head Thursday evening. Always have Thursday evening in your head as your latest. And then at least you've got a few hours backup just in case you forget on Friday mornings. This week it is a Saturday start. But anyhow, we'll get to that later. Guys, well done. Average score, 6.2 points per player this week, which is phenomenal, especially over so many players. 6.22 points per week. That gives you a total of about 190 points or something like that. That would have won you the whole competition 2 years ago. So that's a sign of how strong everybody's performance is so far. Chris McKenzie, Will Baumgardner and Stephen Parkinson, congratulations boys, you are in the top 3 on 25 points from only 24 games predicted. Alright, let's crack on, shall we? Now, we've got a lot of really interesting fixtures and quite hard ones to predict this week, to be fair. We've got a Moscow derby, we've got Zenit against Krasnodar, and there's some teams with European commitments coming up, so there's a lot of factors in it. Right, let's crack on. First up, we've got Ural Yekaterinburg at home to Rostov on Saturday. Now, Ural started with 2 wins at home, scoring 3 goals in both of them. But last week they were very, very poor in the first half, away to Dynamo Moscow. Could have really been more than 2 goals, but it was 2-0 at half-time. Much better after half-time, but too little too late, and they couldn't make an impact or score, so 2-0 defeat it was. Rostov, well, they are flying high, second in the table. They're unbeaten so far. They won very impressively, I'd say, 3-2 away to Arsenal Tula. Mitigating circumstances for Arsenal that they are weaker on paper. They've let a lot of their better players go, returning on loan, etc. in the summer, and they have European commitments coming up. They've already played the first leg of their Europa League qualifier against Neftchi Baku, which they lost 1-0 at home, and they will be travelling back from Azerbaijan on Friday. They'll only get back on about 2 days before this game. Arsenal Tula, for Arsenal Tula's game, but that's another factor. Rostov, 3 goals they scored. Eldor Shomurodov scored his second of the season, very well taken goal, and he assisted 1 too. So a lot of goals are likely in this one. I think both teams are going to score. If you're a betting person, I would go for both teams to score. It's a very interesting market in this one. Ural are confident. Yes, last week was poor, but it was away from home, and they did come back. And Michal Kucharczyk, can't pronounce his name, not seen him yet, but he was very good for Legia Warsaw apparently. So I'm going to go for a high scoring win for Ural in this one. I'm going to go for 3-2. One small factor is they've got to take advantage of their home games. They have 6 of the first 8 games are at home, and they've got to make it count because their away form tradition is not good. So I'm going to go for 3-2. Next up, Krylia Sovietov at home to Lokomotiv. Krylia are down in 14th at the moment. They lost again last weekend to Ufa. Alexander Sobolev, he assisted a lovely goal by Serjan Mihailovic. So that's 4 goals he's been involved in 3 games so far. My concern is that they're starting to become a little dependent on him for goals. Now, he's a very, very good striker, very good with his feet, but physical as well. He's pretty much a whole package almost, you could say. Young guy too. But they face Lokomotiv. Lokomotiv, yes, they did lose to CSKA Moscow in their little derby last weekend. VAR gave the penalty, the first penalty to be given by the controversial technology. It was in the end a correct decision, but my word, it took a long time. It took about a minute for the referee to actually be alerted to review the situation, and 2 minutes at least until the penalty was taken from when the actual initial challenge occurred. But scored it was the right decision. Just Chalov was tripped by Murilo Sekera. So Lokomotiv lost. But they are still a very professional outfit. They don't have too many injury problems to worry about, so I think they're going to win. They're looking a bit shaky. Nikita Chornov has joined them, apparently. Whether it'll be in time for this weekend, I don't know. But is he really the quality to stop Lokomotiv? I don't think so. So I'm going for 1-0 Lokomotiv. Next up, and now the drama begins. Spartak Moscow at home to Dinamo. As soon as you mention the name Spartak Moscow, you instantly know it's going to be controversy, turmoil, up and down in every way. But even by Spartak standards, this week is one of the better ones. Where do we start? Well, transfers. Let's start with transfers. They are basically shipping out their title winners. Another departure. Luis Adriano's left. Fernando has gone to China, bringing in a good bit of money. It should be added, about 20 million from those two transfers. Andrew Schürrle is looking to join. His fiance or wife is Kazakh and her family live in Moscow, so there's a reason why there's a link there. It looks like he might be coming. Jordan Larsson, Henrik Larsson's son, who scored a lot of goals in Sweden, is said to be joining. Guus Thiel, very highly rated Dutch midfielder, 21-year-old from AZ Alkmaar, could also be joining. There have been, however, apparent ultimatums handed down to Oleg Kononov. They have Europa League qualified next week against Thun of Switzerland, and apparently if he loses that, he will be gone regardless, because European football obviously is critical financially, but also in a prestige sense. But the game itself, it might have to be postponed. Now, the Russian Interior Ministry have asked for the game to be postponed because there are going to be major protests planned in Moscow on Saturday, the 3rd of August. You may have seen a lot of them involving the Moscow mayor, protests over his actions and elections. I've lost track of the names of people who have been arrested, but it's some fairly nasty scenes, so you can understand why. They have said they need all the police available for these protests. So to have a licence to stage a game, you need to be able to guarantee the safety of the fans. This is going to be a very, very busy game, a historic Moscow derby. So they're asking them to postpone it. But, like I said, Spartak's Europa League commitments mean they're very reluctant to move this any further back. So whether it will happen, it's still not being confirmed. If it definitely is happening on Saturday, 3 days out, classic Russia. Dynamo Moscow, not free from controversy themselves. Clinton and G, ex-Spurs Marseille forward, published a video of him apparently receiving a blowjob just after he'd signed his contract. I don't know exactly which contract this was actually, because it's not been. I'm not entirely sure, but he posted a rather illicit video, shall we say. He said he was trying to look at the news, but he pressed a button that posted a sex video instead. I'm sure I believe you on that one, Clinton. Either way, it's not exactly the sort of news you want to hear from the sort of drama you want to hear from your new player. Samba Sow allegedly leaving for Nottingham Forest, but that was always likely to happen when Charles Cabaret came in. The football itself. Well, Spartak lost to Tambov rather embarrassingly last weekend, 2-0. Tambov's first ever win in the top flight. Dynamo Moscow, like I said, they were very impressive in the first half at home to Ural, and it is only across town they have to travel. But I don't know, for some reason I think Spartak are going to come out with this weird, ugly mess on top. I think it's going to be 2-1 to Spartak. Okay, moving on. Tambov at home to Arsenal Tula. Tambov, historic win for them. First top flight win. In Saransk, it is technically a home game, but their home stadium is being reconstructed to meet Premier League standards. So, 2-0 win it was for them. Arsenal Tula, well, they're under the pressure a little bit. Europa League commitments in Baku. They, like I mentioned earlier, they'll be coming back from Azerbaijan on Friday. On Sunday, they've got to go to Saransk and play this game. They lost 3-2 to Rostov as well at home at the weekend. So, on balance, I think Tambov are motivated. Arsenal are going to be tired. They have conceded a lot. I think Tambov are going to win 1-0. Rubin Kazan at home to CSKA. Now, Rubin Kazan, I've been informed by David Sanson, our writer, our Rubin Kazan expert. He says it's their best start to a season for, I think, 8 years, something like that. They are unbeaten. They have only scored 3 goals in 3 games, but they've done what they needed to do. They beat Akhmat Grozny, and they were, I would say, in control of the game. They deservedly won. 2 little Georgian wingers, 18-year-olds, absolutely fantastic, I thought. CSKA, well, they beat Lokomotiv thanks to VAR that helped them in that one. It was the right decision, like I mentioned earlier, but they did the job. A bit scrappy the game, but who cares? You get 3 points on the board. So, what do we think is going to happen here? Well, Rubin Kazan should be taken seriously. I thought they would struggle this season, but so I don't think CSKA are going to run right, but I do think they're going to win. I think they're going to edge it. I just think they have a better squad overall. Rubin have played Akhmat, who are not on the best of form this season, so I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to CSKA. Sochi Ufa. Sochi, beginning of the season, a lot of people backed them to do well, recruited very, very well, especially from Zenit. There's a lot of Boris Rottenberg, their owner, is close connections to Gazprom. So I wonder why they managed to get all those ex-Zenit players. But they haven't scored a goal yet. They've not won a game. They lost 3-0 at the weekend to Krasnodar. That's about what you'd expect. Krasnodar are a very good side, but they still haven't scored a goal. There's only so long they can go on saying, well, they're playing good teams. 3 games in already. Ufa, they deservedly won against Krylia. Now, the first 3 games, they've scored 2 goals in each of them, and against some good sides, Krasnodar being one of them. But they lost 3-2 in the first 2 games, and I think I'm pleased for them. They deserve it. So, what do we think will happen here? Ufa's away form is terrible. Listen to this. They have only won 1 away game in over 2 years in the league. So I don't think they're going to win this one. Sochi, for all their poor results on paper, have not been too bad. They have threatened. So I think this will be a 1-1 draw. Akhmat at home to Orenburg. 2 strugglers so far on the table. Akhmat in 13th, Orenburg down in 15th. Orenburg are still in turmoil. They've not really managed to recruit a lot. They've brought in 1 or 2 on loan, but other than that, they're still a very small squad. They've lost every game. Akhmat, like I mentioned, they lost to Rubin Kazan. Deservedly so, I would say, but they're back at home now. Orenburg at home to Zenit St. Petersburg. Well, they're both sponsored by Gazprom or Gazprom subsidiaries, so of course it was always going to be a Zenit win, wasn't it? So what do we think here? I'm not desperately inspired by either, but Akhmat are the better side, so I'm going to go for an Akhmat Grozny win. 1-0 over Orenburg. Now, there is one game that I've missed out because that is my pick for Game of the Week. Zenit at home to Krasnodar. Zenit, they're the only team to have won all 3 games this season. Krasnodar, well, they won very well, 3-0 away, at home, to Sochi. 3 academy goals, Ivan Ignatiev 2 and Shapi Suleimanov yet another goal from the substitute bench. Zenit are allegedly today, even at the time of recording, very close to signing Malcolm from Barcelona. I was very sceptical of this transfer. I didn't think it was going to go through because I think Zenit would be prepared to pay 40 million euros. But apparently it is very close. By the time you read this, he could be a Zenit player. Very big signing, that is. But Krasnodar are also very strong too. So how do we see this going? I think it's such a big game. And the last time they met, it was a cracking game down in Krasnodar, end of last season. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw, which is not a bad result for either side. Zenit will stay top of the table, well, more almost certainly, and Krasnodar, well, they come away from a point from St. Petersburg, which is brilliant. There you go, guys. There's a lot to get through this week. You know what to do. Facebook page, comment under this video preview there. Remind anybody you are friends with who play this game. Remind them to get their predictions in as early as you can. Best of luck, guys, and enjoy what is going to be a cracking weekend of Premier League football. Bye-bye for now.